Hi everyone, in this video interview we're having a look at the idol superhero Superman design manifestation of the mind consciousness system, in how fantasies are created through, within, and as the mind consciousness system, and attempted or tried to be acted out and lived out through the physical, which ends up in becoming a total fuck up, which is basically what is and has been happening within this world and this reality, if one but merely observe the external reality and, within self-honesty, observe one's own internal reality, and become quite amazed as to how exactly there is some sense of functioning that is still occurring within this world and this reality at a basic level of normality. And the idol superhero Superman example is but another one of them, as it is but a minute part of the functioning of and as the mind consciousness system, which is to create a fantasy reality. And the desire one feed into that fantasy reality will determine the extent of possession of that fantasy reality within one's mind consciousness system, to the extent where fantasy and physical become unified through the eye of the mind consciousness system, wherein the being become totally disillusioned by and through fantasy, and do not in fact realize that they are possessed by and through fantasy dimensionality of the mind consciousness system, and that in no way can the mind consciousness system in fact exert itself in its totality through and as the physical to become a functioning whole, where it can make itself as a fantasy real. I mean, in terms of the vast extensive difference between the mind and the actual real physical, there is no way that fantasy can become reality, in terms of the extent to which human beings create fantasies within their mind consciousness system. And if that is attempted, there's always consequence. I mean, just have a look at this world and this reality. What has been attempted or tried to be done is the mind consciousness system exerting itself into, through, and as the physical to live itself out, to attempt or try to make itself real. But all that's happened is manifest consequence, because the physical is not a program, yet a program as the mind consciousness system is attempting to or trying to control it in a way of taking it over. And within that, it's got no reference as to how the physical reality in its totality in fact operate, exist, and live. So naturally there will be consequence. I mean, it's in fact the position of and as the human being. Human beings that attempt to try to make fantasy reality do not realize what is in fact involved within living within this physical manifested reality. That the possession by and through the fantasy gets to such an extent that they do not realize what they're in fact doing to themselves, their lives, to others, by trying to make that fantasy a reality. So let us take an example of the idol superhero Superman complex, wherein one's most prominently create a projected fantasy reality of one's idol superhero Superman, because they represent parts of self that have in fact not been accepted as self, that one then idolize a separate part of an as self that is represented within the idol Superman superhero manifest design. And instead of realizing what one is in fact doing is projecting parts of self into something and or someone else, because it's parts of self that self is not living, accepting, or even realizing that self can be in terms of character. I'm not saying in terms of talents, abilities, or physical design. It's about who self is that's being projected into such parts or manifestations or things or people. Be it, for example, strength, discipline, perseverance, motivation. Like, for example, Superman, in terms of looking at the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious level of the attraction towards Superman, is the point of being independent. Could be the strength, but you're interpreting your desire for that strength as the physical build of Superman, but what's in fact manifesting or happening is that you're desiring a self-strength, and because you're not fulfilling that point within yourself as yourself equal in one, it's projected outwards into an as a superhero manifestations as a Superman, and then you channel or give your power away, so to speak, to that superhero fantasy projected design as Superman, instead of fulfilling yourself within the point of living self-strength. For example, being able to live and function and push yourself to be the best that you can be within yourself in your interaction, in your daily life participation with people, wherein you don't accept or allow yourself to see yourself as inferior, but you live so that you respect yourself within the dignity to express your self-honesty within yourself in everything that you do, that you make sure that your interactions with everything and everyone is equal, which would then be, for example, a living practical definition of self-strength. But everything has been so warped within this world and this reality that is not at all realized, seen, or noticed. Having an idol superhero such as Superman is normal, and the whole corporation that's making extensive amounts of money through human beings' projection as parts of themselves into superheroes, into comics, into pictures, into fantasies. And so everyone is being hypnotized due to their own accepted and allowed separation, not in fact realizing and or understanding what it is that we're in fact accepting and allowing, even through such a simple point as Superman. And another example is, let's take Bruce Lee. I mean, how many human beings have a projected fantasy in relation to the desire of being or becoming exactly as Bruce Lee, even going so far as to deliberately entice fights with strangers in public to show off their moves in their replicating, copying of their hero as Bruce Lee, wherein the desire to be or become him in their fantasy world reality manifestation within their mind consciousness system has possessed them to such an extent where they talk themselves into believing that they are and can be equal to and one with Bruce Lee as the man that he was, and then attempt to try to in fact live it out within actual physical reality, which is now coming back to the example that I spoke to earlier as to attempting or trying to make fantasy a reality but not realizing what physical reality in fact is, not taking into consideration physical reality and the extent to which everything exists within physical reality, and trying to make such a fantasy a reality, you're going to be met with manifested consequence because you do not realize what it in fact means to be Bruce Lee as he was. And that's another line of discussion with regards to, for example, even being or becoming exactly as equal to and one with Bruce Lee is in fact impossible, because his whole placement, positioning, design was pre-programmed, preordained. Nothing anyone does will be equal to those standards because it was pre-programmed. It was a particular specific mind consciousness system design program and utilized to brainwash human beings within their own mind consciousness system, brainwashed by themselves through projected fantasies, exploiting how we have accepted and allowed ourselves to separate ourselves within ourselves, that we're literally projecting parts of ourselves through idols, superheroes, supermen. And there's the elite making money out of this. I mean, there's billions of people participating in this one point every single day, projecting parts of themselves into their idols, superheroes, supermen, not realizing that the elite is making money out of human beings' self-separation through simply not accepting themselves and realizing that they can in fact be more than what they are accepting and allowing themselves to be. And everyone is being incapacitated through hypnotic mesmerization. When, for example, having a look at the point of attempting or trying to be Bruce Lee by enticing a person in public to fight, to show off the moves, how far human beings will go to be like someone else because of the extent that we've lost ourselves within ourselves, within our own mind consciousness systems. I mean, we're here, who we are is in fact here, but we've fragmented ourselves in our mind consciousness system into and as our external reality, that we've lost ourselves into and as our own projected ideas and fantasies. So therefore it's time to bring ourselves back here, within ourselves. Put ourselves back together again, because Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And that putting back together again can only be done by each one. We have to do this for ourselves, by ourselves. And yes, here is support through destiny and through the tools that is provided, through the process of self-honesty, self-forgiveness, writing, to start walking ourselves internally and externally, to start getting to know ourselves first, meaning first start seeing, realizing, understanding how it is that you've separated yourself. Once that is seen, you can start the process of bringing yourself back here with, for example, using idols, superheroes, supermen. Have a look at what it is within that you haven't accepted of yourself. I'm not speaking of, for example, the muscles and the moves and the talents. You have to look beyond that. You've got to look deeper. Like, let's take, for example, Bruce Lee. Was it his, if it is his moves that's attracting you, then have a look, what is it about the moves? Is it his certainty within how he moves? Then you have a look at the word certainty. Is certainty a word that you are living as yourself? And again, not to separate the word certainty into a talent or a physical design or a picture or a fancy or idea. Simply the word certainty. How would you live self-certainty? Which is, for example, a trust. So to assist and support yourself, to be certain of yourself, you've first got to develop trust for yourself. And then see, okay, how can I develop trust within myself? Then have a look at where in your world do you give up on yourself? Where in your world do you say you're going to do something, but then you don't? Then you, for example, just stick to more practical things in your world. Take a schedule. Stick to a schedule. Tell yourself, this is what I'm going to do today, and in fact do it. Wake up in the morning, walk your day as you say you're going to do it. Start living by your own words. So we've got to deprogram, so to speak, how it is that we have separated ourselves through words into external reality, and start living words equal to and one with and as self. And this is what we are in fact walking and assisting and supporting ourselves within, through and as destiny, to start piecing ourselves back together again as the living word, to stop the separation that we've accepted and allowed and the manifested consequence because of it. How we're accepting and allowing reality, existence as a world, nature, animal kingdom, humanity to suffer because of the extent to which we have separated ourselves. So it's time to take responsibility for ourselves and everything and everyone. So for more practical support and assistance in walking this process and facing self, piecing self back together again, to switch off the hypnotic spell that we are under, that we've accepted and allowed ourselves to be under, to stand equal to and one with ourselves again, visit the Destiny forums, Desteni process, and Equal Money. Thank you.